no doubt that travelling around Australia you can get lots of opportunities to do some sand driving. There's lots of beaches, obviously Australia's got a lot of coastline, and getting in the sand and having a bit of fun in the full drive is something you're not going to want to miss out on. So we've come out here to Stockton Beach. We're just north of Newcastle, and we're with Out of Town 4-wheel drive. We've got Pete here, who's certainly an expert on the subject. He's going to tell us a bit about how to set up your vehicle and the type of skills you need to drive on the sand and have a lot of fun while you're doing it. Pete, what's the major thing we need to know about when we're driving on sand?
Well, Steve, the biggest problem that we find that people have driving on the sand is that they fail to let their tyres down sufficiently. And that's the whole secret with driving on sand. If you don't have your tyres down enough, then you're going to get into trouble. And
so what's enough?
Well, we found from experience that if you can let your tyres down to about 16 pound, you'll generally be able to drive with no trouble at all. You can safely let your tyres down even further than that if you start to get into trouble. Even down as low as 8, 10 pound is still quite safe to drive on, yeah. But you need to take a few more safety measures when you do that. But our experience has been that 16 pound is really good. And what you're actually looking for is that you're trying to expand the actual surface area of the tread on the ground. You're not really looking to see your tyres bag out sideways, but more to see the actual surface area on the ground increase by about another 50%.
Right, okay.
Which has the effect of reducing the weight of the vehicle on the sand and reduces the rolling resistance to the sand. The little undulations in the sand lets the tyre conform a lot easier. A couple of the other things to really be conscious of when you're driving in sand is that particularly if it's hot weather, the vehicle may overheat, particularly on a really hot day. So vehicle overheating is a problem. And be conscious that you're going to be straining your clutch a lot too, so get off the clutch as quickly as you can. So they're a couple of the important things. Yeah. The other really important thing with driving on the sand is to keep a little bit of momentum. You need to be moving along at a reasonable sort of a speed without going ridiculously fast. We recommend that you drive along in high range, 4-wheel drive, first and second gear is generally a pretty good mix. To keep the vehicle rolling along and just keep that momentum, because once you lose momentum you start to bog down and that's when you'll have trouble. So just a rolling momentum with a nice reduced tyre pressure.
And does the actual tread pattern on the tyres make a lot of difference?
Not really, no. We have people come onto our courses that have got vehicles fitted with tyres that are really aggressive mud terrain type tyres, and we also get a lot of people with the normal highway tyres, and really on the sand it doesn't make a lot of difference as long as you've got your tyre pressures down. Okay. The tread pattern's not a big factor.
Okay, and even narrow tyres, wide tyres?
Not a lot of difference there again. People tend to think that if you've got big balloon tyres it does make a big difference, but I've had people come in here with very narrow tyres on standard Land Cruisers on the steel wheels with split rims, and they let them down and drive all day with no problem whatsoever. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And as far as driving on the beach below the waterline, what's the story with that? Is that something we should do, or is
Definitely not. Definitely not. No, you've got a lot of money tied up in your vehicle, and there's not a lot of point in getting it drowned. So really, when you're coming onto the beach, it's pretty wise to have an understanding of the tides, know when high tide and low tide is going to be, and try and maintain that you drive above the high tide mark at all times. And that way, you're not going to get caught. Yeah. If you do happen to get bogged, you're not going to be worried about the tide coming in and submerging your vehicle. The other thing about that, of course, is that when you drive down where the water's been, quite often the sand will be quite soft and slushy and you can get bogged a lot easier. Quite often though, you'll find where the water has receded, sometimes it looks nice and firm and it's nice and tempting to drive on. That's fine if you want to do that, but be very conscious that the tide can come in. And actually driving in the water is a definite no-no, because you get the salt water up under your vehicle, which will lead to rust. And also, if you happen to stop in an area where the water is running or the waves are washing, you will wash out the sand under the tyres and you'll become bogged very, very quickly. So try and stay above the high tide mark as best you can.
All right. We've seen here there's some huge sand dunes. What's the right and wrong way to approach one of these sand dunes if you plan to drive up or down it?
Okay, when we're on the dunes, it really is crucial that we approach the dunes at right angles at all times. So when you're driving up a dune, make sure you stay square to the hill, and when you're driving down, square to the hill again. And whatever you maintain that theory, you shouldn't have any trouble. It's when you get sideways on the dune that you haven't run the risk of the vehicle rolling. Yeah. So always keep square to the hill at all times. Also a good idea that you don't just drive up a dune and blindly back down over the other side, because quite often they can be very, very steep and that can cause a lot of trouble and get people hurt. So always expect that the opposite side of the dune to what you're approaching It can be quite a steep drop off. Also assume that there could be someone else coming. So be very cautious when you're approaching the crests of dunes for oncoming traffic and sharp drop-offs on the other side. Learn to read the sand, particularly in the middle of the day when there are no shadows, the sun is very high. You can get very sharp changes in the direction of the sand, little blowouts and washaways of the sand through wind erosion, and that can quite often damage the vehicle and give people jarred necks and things like that. So be very cautious that we don't drive too fast, and we look out for the changes in the actual lay of the sand.
Okay. Out of town four-wheel drive, you're based here in Newcastle. You guys do driver training out here in Stockton Beach?
We do. We run regular courses of driver training for the public. We're a registered training organisation with VTAB, and we do training to a national standard, and we issue a nationally recognised certificate. And our courses run over 2 days. The first day we do bush techniques in a specially constructed training facility, and on the second day we do all the beach driving techniques, and we bring the people out here onto the beach for a big part of the day, and we experience the beach, and we actually let people feel what it's like to drive up and down the dunes, to drive near the water, to experience the thrill of driving down the steepest dune we can find for them. But again,
we found that one today.
Again, giving the people the confidence that they need to drive safely on the dunes, which is the optimum word.